Okay, we are live. Hello, friends. Welcome to the stream. If you are watching the playback of this, it's January 25th. Today's the full moon. And as you're watching, please feel free to drop any questions in the chat. If you are watching the replay, you can click the link in the description to learn more about the Eternal Dragon, which is a system that I made that's based on tarot and chakras and alchemical wisdom traditions from all over the world, and including astrology. Okay, so this stream today is going to be about the full moon. Today on January 25th, and I'm going to pull up the chart right now. But as we drop in, just want to share. Every day I have a card from the Eternal Dragon system that I've created that I meditate on. And whoop, having a stream problem. Let's see. Okay, no, we're still doing good. Cool. So every day I have a card, I pull a card from my Eternal Dragon deck to meditate on. And along with astrology, which is a kind of, it's a geometric system that's based on time and the movement of the planet. So there's like a clockwork to it. And drawing a card from the tarot is kind of the opposite of that because it's just taking something random. But I really believe that there's actually no such thing as randomness in the universe. And there's scientific evidence to show this, that there's a study, an ongoing study that is being done where people created these little devices that do a digital coin flip that select a random 1 and 0. Because when the computer does a random 1 or 0, random, it's not actually random. They take a slice of the clock time and put it through a formula to make a pseudo-random number. But some people invented this device that can actually make a random 1 or 0 and stream out thousands and thousands of them per second. And they place these little devices all over the world and then analyze the data of these streams and 1s and 0s to see what happens. And the statistical analysis of them shows that they will go into statistical anomalies when major world event happens. So like on 9/11, all of the little egg time flippers would start streaming zeros, an inordinate amount of zeros or ones. And they've done all this analysis over major events that happen and show that the randomness in life is connected to actual events that are happening. So not everything is interconnected. So that's my little spiel on that. And so the card for today that we're going to look at is this one, the Witch. Now, I've called this card the Witch. This card is called the High Priestess in the traditional tarot. And this is the card that came up for today. And it's a very interesting one because the Witch is like, it's the number 2. And so it's the embodiment of polarity, where the 1 is the pure awareness of self, this pure light of awareness of beingness. The 2 is this embodiment of polarity, of the duality, and we see that in the black and white pillars that are behind that, and that's part of the traditional image. But I called this card the Witch rather than the High Priestess for a very specific reason, because the Witch is this feminine archetype that is this representation of pure power, of this like raw power of desire. And witches, historically, are the representation of the feminine that apologizes to nothing and is just this pure power of desire, of creativity. And it's from the duality, from coming to know the light and the dark, that we as human beings begin to understand what we are and what life is. And so there's a quote that goes along with this card that goes like this. Man has been given the greatest freedom, the freedom to choose between the darkness and the light. Man has been given a soul. Everything visible is in man's power, and man is at liberty, even with respect to God, whether to love him or not. No one and nothing can govern man against his will. That's a quote from Anastasia, who is the main subject of the Ringing Cedars book series, which is a really fascinating, powerful series of books if you're interested. So I'm going to start at, as we drop in with a little bit of a meditation. So I invite you, as you're watching this, to get comfortable and tune in. Because even if you're watching the replay of this, your awareness is contributing to the field of what's going to transmit, what I'm going to say. So I invite you to get settled and drop into yourself. Find your feet rooted flat on the ground. Maybe close your eyes. And I invite you to meditate on what I just shared about the witch and about the power of the feminine coming back into prominence in our world. And as we look at some of these patterns of astrology, you'll see that there's a lot opening up. And to remember, as we step deeper into 2024, that there's this raw power of feeling that exists below the level of thought. Whether you're a man or a woman or something else, we all have access to that raw power of feminine feeling. I invite you to feel that. I invite you to feel your desires, whether they be light or dark. Not all desires have to be expressed, but all desires need to be acknowledged and the energy channeled through us. We have the power. And as I share some of these astrological waves that are happening, remember that we have sovereignty. They're not set in stone. Astrology is not fortune telling that dictates the way things are going to happen. It's waves that we can choose how to surf or not. And that quote is very true, that we as human beings have been given the ultimate power to choose what path we want to take. Okay. So if your eyes have been closed, I invite you to come back into the room. Feel your body. Just going to let the music keep playing as I talk. Okay. So let's get into the chart. Okay. So here's the chart for the full moon today, which is at 12:54 p.m., which is just like 2 hours ago. And again, I really invite, as I start to share some of the information from this chart in particular, to have this awareness of our sovereignty and to have this awareness of how our energy creates our reality, but to find the balance in that also, that we live in a shared reality and to not forget that. As I've been, I watch the threads of information that surface in my in my personal field, and I've been seeing people like on social media and in different places talking about things. There's a lot of revelations happening in the world right now, and at many, many different levels, and there can be a tendency as these revelations start to come out to think, oh, we've been lied to about certain things, and so therefore everything that we've been told is a lie. And to not throw the baby out with the bathwater in terms of your intellect, like when stories get challenged and things get revealed, to not throw away common sense ability to stay in the world of the rational, even when things start to get sci-fi and surreal. Okay, so that's just my preface about about this chart. This chart, this is we're in Aquarius. Sun and Pluto are in Aquarius here. and moon in Leo. So whenever there's a full moon, there's an opposition between the sun and the moon. So it's a tension line. Versus the new moon is the moon and the sun conjunct. That's a smoothly flowing relationship. When there's this tension line of the full moon, it's actually when there's a strain between two opposing opposites. So Aquarius, the energy of Aquarius is it's about exploration and freedom and being in a fluid dynamic with the group, versus Leo is about self-expression and personal sovereignty and creativity. Leo corresponds to the time of 3 in the afternoon. So it's the brightest, hottest part of the day when everything is present and visible. Versus Aquarius is 3 in the morning, which for any of you who've spent time, stayed up all night multiple times or been up at 3 in the morning, it's a weird time of night. It's the witching hour. Aquarius has a strangeness to it. If you saw any of the the thumbnail for this video, I said get ready for the weird, because Aquarius is weird. It's a strange time. It corresponds also to, it's this like February time, which is often when like an animal is pregnant, but the fetus is not formed into something that's recognizable yet. It's just this like primordial soup. Like something's been planted and it's forming, but it's in this like, there's this bizarre boundarylessness of Aquarius. That's the energy of Aquarius. And so as the sun has moved into Aquarius, it's also happened at the same time as Pluto is going into Aquarius. Pluto and the sun both left Capricorn on the same day to enter into Aquarius last weekend. If this is significant, I had a very intense weekend last weekend as this transit happened. It's very significant. Every year the sun goes around the whole zodiac, but Pluto stays 15, 20 years in each sign. And so what that means is there's a whole era that's ending. The Pluto Capricorn era is ending. There's going to be a brief moment in the fall where Pluto dips back into Capricorn momentarily, and then will stay in Aquarius for the next 20 years. And these outer planets, the inner planets dictate a lot more about our personal reality. But when we're talking about these further outer planets, the further out you go, the more it's about a collective pattern, because we've all been experiencing the same thing. And so there's like generations, there's like a 20-year period where everybody is born in the Pluto Libra era, and where everybody's born in the Pluto Scorpio era. And so this Pluto Capricorn era that's just ending is really about the unearthing. Pluto is the unearthing, and it's the underworld transformer. It's the looking under the log to see what strange and wiggly things are under there. And so that has been happening in the realm of Capricorn, which is about structures and business. And Capricorn, these nighttime signs, Capricorn and Aquarius both, I really think are very misunderstood signs. And Capricorn being the time period of January, it's about intention setting. It's about creating structures of thought, creating plans. But it's not about dominance and ambition. A lot of people associate Capricorn with it's like this mountain climbing goat, like striving for ambition. And that's not the true energy of Capricorn. Capricorn in its native state is very restful. It's quiet. It's about this contemplation that happens in the dead of winter. And so but the Capricorn rules business and structures of rulership, which have been very dominating and aggressive. That's an out of balance expression of what Capricorn is. But so over this past 20-year period, there's really been this like upheaval of the looking into the underworld of what exists in terms of the status quo of finance. It's like the 2008 financial collapse is a perfect example of this, of the underworld being seen, of people being able to see more and more like, wait a minute, like what is happening with the world of finance? What is happening with the world of business? Is this all these beliefs that we've had, like, are they even true? Like what's really going on? And this like revelation of corruption in all these areas. That's been this whole period of Pluto moving through Capricorn. But so as it's moving into Aquarius, we're starting to step into this era of like, can we look at the underworld of like, what does it mean to be together in community? What does it mean to have our self-expression but in a group, like how can we work together? What are we going to change about how we choose to be together in community and make things happen in community? And so that shifting, especially if you have a strong Capricorn placement in your birth chart, which I and my wife both do, this exit, it's like the the exit of Pluto and the Sun at the same time, leaving Capricorn was very intense for both of us because we both have really, multiple planets placed in Capricorn. So it's been a very like underworld transformational time for both of us for like the past 15, 20 years. And so any of you who have a lot of strong Capricorn placement in your chart can probably attest to that. So good news, but if you have a lot of Aquarius in your birth chart, this is going to be a period of transformation and unveiling for you over this next 20-year period. Cool. So that's Pluto and the Sun leaving. And so then let's look at this biggest aspect that's most noticeable here, which is this T square. So this big red triangle being formed between Sun and Pluto, Jupiter, and the Moon. And so, like I said, we have Moon and Leo, so the emotions, and you can do this like archetype math with the symbols in the chart. So the Moon is about emotions, Leo is about creativity and self-sovereignty. So the Moon in Leo is like the emotional patterning is pulling towards the creativity and self-authorship and being in this, it's our language reflects it. It's like the expression of I am a lion, of I am my own sovereign self. That's where our emotionality is going. But while at the same time, the Sun pattern, which is like the life path, and there's Pluto in there too, is moving into group dynamic. So whenever there's a tension line like that, it's like how can we resolve those things and make them balance with each other, not compromise them. It's not about compromising, but it's about how can they actually flow well together. There's a challenge in getting them to flow well together, but if we can find the harmony, find the balancing, that's where the power unlocks. And in this chart, we have this added layer of a Jupiter in Taurus. So that's this making a square with Sun, Pluto, and with Moon. So when there's a T square, it's like it looks like a bow and arrow. It's like this taut bowstring, and then it's like being pulled back in one direction. So Jupiter in Taurus is really this like expansion into slowness and stability. And so it's like, and moving towards material comfort and material pleasures. So the Jupiter Taurus era is really about that. It's about like can we find this like material stability. Jupiter Taurus is so Jupiter is an interesting planet because it takes 12 years to move around the zodiac. So it spends 1 year approximately in each sign. So each year has a quality of Jupiter being in that sign. That's like the year-long increment. So this whole coming year, and it's starting like a month or two ago, is this Jupiter in Taurus time period, finding material stability, while at the same time like this underworld transformation life path moving into finding what it means to explore ourselves in groups and finding this emotional expressivity and of self-sovereignty in the Moon in Leo. So all of those things are kind of like in a tension with each other. So if we can find this balancing of like how can these things actually serve each other? How can our emotionality towards our personal creativity and this transformation opening up of how we collaborate with other people shift into something that is also creating material stability. And as I'm saying this, I'm realizing I'm experiencing this right now in my own life in my team working relationships of it's like, okay, how can we really transform how we are with the people that we're collaborating with to make something happen? Okay, so that's this main T square happening here. Cool. Other main factors that are going on in this chart. So we have what's called a bisextile here. And it's a little bit hard to see, but where you see this triangle with these two blue lines, and this green line here that's connecting Venus and Saturn and Jupiter. So Jupiter is part of two figures. Jupiter is a part of this T-square, and it's also part of this bisextile triangle. And the bisextile, funny name, is it's a very harmonious aspect. So it's the green lines, the trines, and the blue lines, the sextiles, are smoothly flowing aspects, whereas the red lines, the square, and the opposition are challenge lines. So the bisextile is a beneficial aspect, but it also represents something that is emerging, that's manifesting, versus a grand trine, which is three of these green lines, three trines connecting each other in a big triangle. A grand trine is like something positive that's already present, but the bisextile is something that's becoming manifest. So we have Saturn Pisces, Jupiter Taurus, and Venus Capricorn. So Venus in Capricorn is like this finding the love. Venus is what we love. Is finding the enjoyment, the pleasure in structure, in creating ideas. Saturn opening the challenges in Pisces, in the realm of imagination and dreaming. So it's like creating structure for the dreaming that also serves material comforts. This is something that's happening in a smoothly flowing way. There is an opening for creating that. So this is a time where if you have dreams that you're trying to bring into reality, that are a challenge in some ways. Saturn is challenging obstacles, structure. Saturn. This is a time when there's an opening to find the joy in creating structures that bring your dreams into reality in a way that will create material comfort. So this is a great time for initiating business. But with the presence of this trine, it's like you got to reimagine how you work with people, and you got to bring your own creativity out and make those things balance with it, which will be challenges. But there's this thing where it's like, okay, the structure and the dreaming is there, flowing smoothly for you. Cool. Something else really of note in this chart is that while the Sun and Pluto have moved into Aquarius, we still have Mars, Mercury, Pholus, and Venus in Capricorn. So Mars, Mercury, and Venus are all the inner planets besides the Earth inside the asteroid belt. So in an interesting way, and Mercury and Venus are always within one sign. Mercury's always within one sign of the sun. Venus is always within two signs of the sun because they're closer in of the orbit than Earth. But Mars can be in any sign in relationship to the sun. But so the fact that all three of them are still here in Capricorn is very interesting. And Mars conjuncting Mercury. So at the same time as Venus is here, this love, this opening of it being pleasurable to create structures, there's a huge amount of energy for it. And it's like Mars and Mercury together. Mercury is mental, mind and communication. Mars is vitality and energy, where we have energy. There's a ton of energy available for this like mental structure creating in Capricorn. This is very strong. With Venus here too, it's like build a business. that's what I read in this. Or it's like create the structures that are going to serve you. If you're not an entrepreneur, it's like make whatever structures are going to bring your dreams alive and like create wealth and structure for you. And as this Pluto moving into Aquarius, it's like there's new ways to work together. So there's old patterns of like serving people, serving other people, doing things we don't love, doing things that aren't in alignment with our own dreams. It's time to let that go. So stop living that reality if that's what you've been in, and bring the emotionality of your own personal creativity, your own personal sovereignty into being. That's what this moon placement. At the same time, it's like we got this Saturn Pisces. In the last live stream, I talked about Neptune being in Pisces too. So the dreaming is really open. It's interesting that Neptune is making a square with Ceres, which is the largest asteroid. Technically an asteroid. It's a planet. Venus, Ceres is, it's large enough that it's not like an oblong, weirdly shaped asteroid. It's like a planet. It's a big object in the asteroid belt, but because it's in the asteroid belt, it's not considered a planet technically. Same as Pluto. Pluto's not technically a planet. Ceres is the representation of abundance. It's like, where does abundance live? Ceres is the goddess of the harvest. Ceres, the word comes from cereal, like cereal grains. It's harvesting. Ceres in Sagittarius, so it's like this higher awareness, abundance coming from Sagittarius, which is like higher learning, awareness of cosmic things, awareness of larger patterns, abundance coming from that, but also Neptune squaring it in Pisces. It's like this is like this deep dreaming, where it's like the dreams of the subconscious. And so there's something to be rectified here, where there needs to be a balancing of like these really, really like deep dreams that we want to dive into, especially if you have a strong Neptune placement in your chart, and opening the abundance that's connected to this kind of like higher learning here with Ceres. Another major thing to note in this chart, all of the planets are starting to go direct. For a lot of the fall, we had all of the outer planets, Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, Jupiter, Uranus, going retrograde, and they've gradually been going direct over the course of the past few months. Uranus is now stationary retrograde, which means it's gone still and is about to go direct. So this is like a powerful moment right now on this full moon, because it's the moment when now Uranus is starting to go direct, and now all of the outer planets are going direct. Which means that as there's been some like backward movement this past year, I'm sure you all felt it, was a time, as I talk to people, it's like this past year was really a time of incubation, of things seeming to go backwards in certain ways, and like old patterns having to be revisited. That's what happens when there's a retrograde. It's like, oh, you have to kind of go back on your tracks, go backwards and walk the path you already came in order to move forwards. But now everything is starting to move forwards again, so it's this direct momentum. And it's like the lesson in this is like harvest when, what's the phrase? It's like I forget how it goes. It's like make harvest when there's hay, something like that. But when the energy is available, make use of it. So as the planets are starting to go direct, get the movement going. And Uranus in Taurus with Jupiter is like, okay, Uranus is rules like revolutions and innovation, it's freedom. It's like finding a new way to do things. So it's like a new way to be with materiality. And Uranus is making a trine with this Mercury Mars in Capricorn. So it's a very powerful time to be envisioning new plans, new structures, new ways of being with material reality, new ways of making money. All of that is very present in this chart. So all in all, I would say this chart is like, it's the time to create the structures to make your dreams a reality, to express your creativity, to learn how to work with people in different ways, to create structures, and to find your own sovereignty in it. That's like the patterning of this whole chart. Boom. Okay. So another thing that I would like to touch on about this chart is we have here Chiron, Eris, and the North Node conjunct in Aries. Now, Eris and Chiron have a very, very long orbit. So Eris takes, I'll look at my notes so I say it properly. Eris takes 556 years to go around the zodiac. So for most of the 20th century, Eris has been in Aries. So what is that? Eris is the planet of discord. Eris is in Greek mythology, Eris is the goddess who accompanies Ares into war. There's the story of Eris. There's a story about Eris where all the gods are having a wedding on Mount Olympus. Excuse me. And Eris is not invited to the party. And so she crashes the party and brings her golden apple of desire and throws it into the mob of the goddesses, and they all start fighting and ripping each other apart to try and get this golden apple. So Eris shakes things up, and as a pattern, it's really, she shows up where it's like, which like challenging the status quo, disrupting what is present, how things have been. And so for really the past 100 years has been a time of shaking up the status quo of identity, of really, which is the pattern of Aries. It's like, who am I? And how do I relate to who I am and how I assert myself personally in the world? That's the energy of Aries. And this whole time period has been this shakeup of that for everybody. For a certain period of time, Chiron is now coming closer into a conjunction with Eris. Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron, wherever Chiron shows up, it's like old wounds being revisited, or wounding that needs to be addressed and healed. And so Chiron is going to be transiting Eris for the next until about 2030 is when it's going to be out of conjunction. So for the next 6 years or so, Chiron is going to be transiting Eris. So this is going to be a time of confronting the wounds of identity, confronting what does it mean to shake up the status quo of what identity is, and to find the truth, the real truth of who we are. That's not then conforming into some sort of group identity. There's a lot of patterns of movement in society around identity politics, which is very related to these patterns happening. And I think a lot of people try to assert a new kind of identity, but end up stepping in just into a different group. There's something about really finding the sovereignty of who you are when you're by yourself, when you're not talking to anybody or trying to like make a stand in the outer world. It's the privateness of like, what do I do to become who I am when nobody's watching, and really feeling into what wounding is there. The fact that the North Node is conjuncting it is it's like lessons to be learned, things that we're being pushed into in the collective towards that. North Node and South Node represent, you could say, kind of like past and future. So where the South Node is like comfort zones and things that we've already learned and past lives, the North Node is lessons that are being invited, the future trajectories, things that are being opened up. So the North Node in there on this full moon with the context of everything else I said, it's quite significant, because it's like, okay, being asked as we do all of these things, as we create these new structures, as we learn how to work together in groups and open our dreams and all this stuff, it's like, are we doing it in a way that's not coming from our identity wounding? Can we do it from a way that is healing those old wounds? I just felt it in my own body. Yeah. Can we let go of the old wounding of who we are? And it's very appropriate, this card for today, the witch. The witch is all about that. You could say that Eris is kind of like the planet of the witch. It's the feminine planet that shakes things up. And when we look at it too, the symbol of Eris is like Venus upside down. You know, it's the plus on top of the circle, where Venus is the plus underneath the circle. So it's this like stepping into this like raw, unapologetic power of the witch that we all have. That's like, I'm in relationship. I'm in the polarity of the dynamic of being here, and I get to choose who I am and not apologize to anybody for what that is. Excellent. So I hope this is settling in well for everybody who's watching. That's kind of the main overview of everything that is most prominent in this chart. I'm going to look at my notes here for a second. As we move into the rest of this year, these outer planets are still going to go direct and be moving forward for quite a while. Coming in April, we'll see Jupiter and Uranus conjuncting in Taurus. So that means like this trajectory, as Uranus starts to go direct and Jupiter starts to follow it and come into alignment with it, is going to be really this opening up of the material stability, of expanding into a new way of living in the material world. And that means money, but it's also like home and this grounding in the material presence. for the rest of the year, Saturn and Neptune are going to be in Pisces until Neptune is going to leave Pisces right around the, it's like in September. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong. Neptune's going to go retrograde, and then it's early next year. Neptune is going to leave Pisces. So really, for the whole rest of the year, it's this Piscean thing is happening of Saturn and Neptune in this sign. So it's really a time for opening the dreaming capacity of the imagination that is just like unlimited. Whereas Sagittarius is like higher learning that has a structure and understanding the real patterns of things. It's like looking up at the stars and and seeing the patterns of life. That's the Sagittarius energy. Versus Pisces is like, it's a dream. It's things that can be impossible. It's like tapping into that capacity that we have to envision anything that we want to come into being. But in order to step towards a reality that we want to live in, we have to choose. We have to shape it. We have to put our awareness on it and consciously move towards a vibration. We don't have to know exactly what it looks like, but we have to be directed. There's this phrase that I love that Terence McKenna would always say, that you must have a plan or you'll become a part of somebody else's plan. And really it's like the Capricorn energy present here. It's like make a plan for your life and learn how to do it with other people while being in harmony with your own creative assertion, and find the way that it can create material wealth too. All of these things are possible. Okay. Cool. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. I was just taking a look at the stream. I don't see any questions here. I'm going to wrap it up. I really appreciate all of your presence. Hope you have a wonderful day. And remember to step into your power, but also that we're in relationship with other people. All right. Many blessings, family.